Okay, today we are making brisket. I haven't made a brisket in a pretty long time because it takes forever to make a brisket, but I'm going to do it. Tomorrow is Labor Day here in the United States. My mom asked me to bring over a brisket for her Labor Day party, so you know what? Mom is going to get her brisket. This is about 11-pound flat of the brisket. There's also the point, which is normally sitting right about here, so this is the flat bottom. The point has been removed. We've got a big fat cap that's sitting on here. I'm going to trim it up just a little bit, but for the most part, I'm going to leave most of the fat cap on here because I've got plenty of time to smoke this. It is 1:09 p.m. here, and this needs to be ready by 5 p.m. tomorrow. And being at about 11 pounds, you should take anywhere between an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes per pound on this. Off to the races. We're gonna be smoking this thing all day, all through the night, and I'm gonna take you guys through the entire process of how I do this. All right, first of all, for the most part, this thing is trimmed pretty good, but there is a little bit of excess fat that I'm gonna get rid of on here. And so, what happens is, I'm gonna smoke this I'm gonna put it in the smoker just the way it is until we hit what is called the stall, which happens at about 150 degrees. And what that is when the fat starts to melt off of the meat, and it's melting at the same time the temperature of the meat is rising and it's cooling it off. It's sort of like when your body is sweating. And so what happens is you have to wait and push through the stall until the fat has melted off enough, and so that the brisket or the meat or whatever you're smoking is able to start coming back up to temp. So at that point is when I'm going to take it off the smoker, and I'm going to wrap it in tin foil, and it basically kind of like lightly steams the meat kind of and gets that fat going and pushes you through the stall. I have plenty of time, but if I had a full brisket that had the point still attached to it and I'm dealing with a really big fat cap, I might not wrap it, but I want to make sure that this is going to be a super, super juicy brisket. And so I'm going to wrap it, make sure it's super juicy, and it's going to be fabulous. That's a big piece. Okay. All right. So, got this thing basically trimmed up. And when I put it on the smoker, I'm going to put a fat cap side up. Most people don't think that it does anything per se, having the fat cap up, but I like to think it does. You know, the fat's going to start melting, it's going to start, kind of marinating the meat, it's going to keep the meat juicy. That's what I think. Not everybody agrees. Alright, if you've seen some of my other videos on the different barbecues that I do, I use mustard, a regular yellow mustard is my binding agent for my rub. And I found that, a lot of people use mustard. It burns off or cooks off, and you don't really get any mustard flavors imparted on it, but it's a good sticky way of getting your rub to kind of bind to the meat. And I do it very, very simple. I don't do anything crazy with my rub. I literally just use some fresh ground pepper, and I use sea salt. That's it. That's all I do on my rub. We'll get to putting the pepper down, and I go really, really liberal with the salt and pepper on this, so I'm going to give it a really good coating. Now let's go for salt. And I'm going to let this thing hang out in the refrigerator for about an hour, kind of turn into a little paste on the outside of this as the juices start to combine as the smoker comes out the temp. Alright, salt. Again, pretty liberal on the salt. A little sheet pan. Pick this guy up. Get a little dab of salt and pepper right there. Make sure the whole thing is covered. Onto the pan. And now this guy goes into the refrigerator for the next hour or so while I get the smoker up to temp. So the smoker that I use is a Weber Smoky Mountain. It is a 3-piece smoker, I guess you could say. So you have the base piece right here, and so that's where all of the charcoal that I'm using. I only use Brisket charcoal. In here, this is the main body of the smoker. This is the little door so you can access the water pan and also access the charcoal. Up top is the rack where I'm going to be having the brisket, and that is a chimney starter to get it going. So I'll get that going, all rip roaring hot, and The technique that I like to do is I pour right in the middle of the briquettes. They will slowly light the rest of these, and it'll keep me in a consistent temperature. I'm going to be aiming for 225 to 250 degrees today. So let's get that lit. Okay, so for the most part, I got the charcoal going, so it's time to put this thing together. Got the body on there. Now I'm just gonna have to add some water to the water pan, let this whole thing come up to temp, make sure all the vents are open. Okay. I've got about 2 pitchers of water in the bottom of this pan. I will add a 3rd pitcher of water. And then get the lid on and let this thing come up. Alright, to reiterate on this, in the bottom is where I have the fire. Here is a little access door so that I can get the wood in, and then also right here is a hot water or a water pan, and so as the heat rises, it's going to evaporate the water, creating steam, keeping the humidity high in the chamber, and then the rack where the meat's going to go is going to be right about here. I'm using hickory wood today. Normally I use apple wood for pretty much everything if I'm doing poultry, if I'm doing ribs, but for a brisket that's like a super beefy cut, I'm gonna go hickory. I don't like mesquite. I think it's a little bit too much. I generally like fruit woods, but for this, I'm gonna go hickory today. All right, this thing has now made it up to 240 degrees. Try to dial that back a little bit. Get this thing on for the long haul. I'm gonna put a meat thermometer in here, right in the middle, fattest part. We're gonna aim for about 195 degrees on this guy today. The last step before we really leave this thing alone to get going is we need to add some wood. So, got a few big chunks of hickory, toss them in there. Boom. Check this thing in about, I don't know, hour or 2. Alright, quick update on the meat. It is currently sitting at 113 degrees. It's been on for about 2 hours. And I've been battling the smoker at the moment because it is at 250 and I want it to be more like 225. Another quick check-in. So the meat is at 143 degrees currently. It was really sunny out today, so I had to wrap my thermometer in a towel so it would stay out of the sun and not overheat, which it did once. So we're at 143. Let's take a look at it. Ooh, that is looking good. Looking pretty good. I'm happy. So the brisket has now hit 156 degrees. It's coming right into the stall. The fat is melting at the same temperature as the meat is rising, which is counteracting it. So what happens is that enough fat has to kind of render out and fall off of the meat up until the temperature can start to rise again. So to help that, I'm going to wrap it in some tin foil, and I am going to get it back on the grill, and that's going to sort of push right through the stall. This is a pretty big brisket, and I wish I had some larger tin foil, I'm not going to lie, but we are going to make this work. This guy's wrapped up nice and good. Back on the smoker. Okay, we're back on the smoker. Check it as it goes. Decided to make a decision. So, as you can see, that is now unwrapped. Now, the temperature was rising pretty quickly and I was moving past the stall pretty fast. So I decided to unwrap it and just let it roll. Alright, we're switching to cell phone mode finally. Oh, let's see how this guy's doing. He's doing good. Alright, moving into this portion of the evening, we are going to be checking the brisket hourly. It's been there for 9 hours now. We are at 181. We're 14 degrees away. No, maybe a little more or less. So when I'm gonna pull it. See what the temp is in the chamber. We are at 240. I'll take it. Super sleepy check-in. Again, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. We are at 188. We're 7 degrees away, people. Success. Alright, let's see what we're working with here. Well, that was quite the journey that we just went on. This thing's finally done and it looks really good. I got the brisket in at about 3 o'clock last night. It is now 6 o'clock in the morning. This thing just did 195 degrees and it is just juicy and bouncy looking. Looks super, super good. So now I'm going to wrap it in tin foil, and then I'm going to wrap it in paper towel, or I'm going to wrap it in tin foil, and then I'm going to wrap it in towels, and then it's going to go inside of this cooler right here, which is the thickest, most insulated cooler that I own, and that's going to hold the temperature for hours and hours and hours. And that should hold it until it is time to eat later this afternoon. Art looks really good. Careful not to tear the tin foil. I'm going to use basically the rest of this tin foil on this thing, because I want to make sure that this thing is very well wrapped up. I don't want any leaks at all. Make sure this thing stays juicy. I don't want to cut into it. I don't want to do anything. Just make sure it maintains all of its juices. Then to the bottom of the cooler. And then toss a towel on top of this because the zipper is not insulated on this, so I want to make sure there's got a padding of towel insulation going on. Clip this thing tight. And that is it. So that was the brisket journey that we went on. So I'm going to cut to slicing, basically laying it out and slicing at my parents' house later today on Labor Day. So, see you soon. There's so much tin foil on this thing, it's ridiculous. Okay, so I think this is against the grain.
Good luck. What's going on?
It's fantastic, so I'm stoked. I was very scared. See, these are the good slices right here. Like, this stuff is like killer right here.
Hey, this is Brian Ames. Please click the subscribe button that you see right there, and you'll subscribe to my videos. From now on, I'm going to be eating a lot of peppers. It's going to, oh man, it's going to be great. Bye.